We are now just days away from the Bitcoin halving, and there are asset investors all over the globe that have pure excitement for what is to follow. Now, I want to talk about two blockchain companies that you've probably heard of, and that is Ripple and Stellar, that are working with more financial institutions than any other blockchain company in the space. Now, make no mistake, XRP and XLM are two digital assets that will get a ton of hype and a ton run of attention throughout this year. Guys, all I ever ask is if you do like talking about XRP, smash that subscribe and like button, share the content, and let others around the world know what is truly happening here in this digital revolution. The United States Securities Exchange Commission reminds the federal court about violations of securities laws by Ripple Labs and asks the judge to grant a final judgment against Ripple. This includes permanent injunctions, disgorgement, and prejudgment interest, and civil penalties of nearly $2 billion. Ripple executives and the crypto community criticized the Securities and Exchange Commission for irrational statements in the remedies-related brief and other documents. No allegations of fraud or recklessness are just a move to punish Ripple and sabotage the bull market. The public version of the SEC's remedies-related brief was filed in the court after redactions. The arguments are primarily based on violations of Section 5 of the Securities Act of 1933 in conducting unregistered offerings of XRP in institutional sales. The argument is based on Judge Annalisa Torres' summary judgment order last July 13th, which means the SEC has not argued any fraud and simply targeting the growth of Ripple despite a lawsuit. The SEC wants Judge Annalisa Torres to grant a proposed order in its favor and force Ripple to pay $876,308,712 in disgorgement. Additionally, it seeks $198,150,940 in prejudgment interest, $876,308,712 civil penalty. The CC claims Ripple's post-complaint XRP sales are mostly to institutions, and the sales harmed investors as the company even failed to disclose discounts to institutional investors. Moreover, the SEC argues Ripple continues to defy laws, mischaracterize the ruling, and evade the securities law intentionally. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse said the $2 billion penalty is illogical based on no allegations, let alone findings of fraud or recklessness. There is absolutely no precedent for this. Instead, Garlinghouse highlights the SEC's gross abuse of the power in Debtbox case and acting without faithful allegiance to the law in the Ripple case. Ripple close Stuart Alderati stated that the SEC seems to only punish and intimidate Ripple and the whole industry rather than applying the law. Ripple will submit its opposition to the court on April 22nd, and the SEC will file its reply on May 6th as per extended dates approved by Judge Torres. Pro-XRP lawyers assert the remedies-related brief had nothing more than what was expected. However, lawyers raised some concerns regarding ODL sales and negotiations. Lawyers Bill Morgan and James Farrell said Judge Torres classed ODL sales into Category 1 with other sales to institutions and Ripple sales since the lawsuit was to ODL customers. Lawyers hope Ripple changed its business practices. As per Torres' ruling, otherwise the SEC will gain the upper hand. Fred Rispoli believes the motion has consequences for Ripple, but thinks the court will offer parties enough time to negotiate on the penalties and fines, or else the judge will decide if newly structured sales are favorable enough to Ripple. Meanwhile, XRP price trades 3% higher over $0.651 in the last 24 hours. The 24-hour low and high are $0.627 and $0.659. Furthermore, trading volume has increased by 70% in the last 24 hours, indicating a rise in interest among traders after positive reactions from Ripple. In a recent analysis of the ongoing legal dispute between Ripple Labs and the U.S., CC legal expert Fred Rispoli has highlighted a potentially significant development in the case, suggesting a 40% likelihood of a pivotal twist. As became known yesterday, the SEC has requested a substantial $2 billion fine against Ripple. This demand, expected to be detailed in forthcoming documents, marks a critical moment in Ripple's extended legal battle with the regulatory agency. Rispoli, a known supporter of XRP, dissected the nuances of the case, emphasizing the seriousness of the SEC's allegations against Ripple. He noted the importance of the regulator's obligation to demonstrate actual harm to investors, a point contested by Ripple, which denies the validity of the SEC's claims and questions the regulator's adherence to legal standards. The motion, Rispoli stressed, carries substantial implications for Ripple and the cryptocurrency market. Speculating on possible outcomes, he suggested two scenarios of favorable settlement post-ruling, to which he gives a 40% chance of an extended legal battle with Ripple facing constraints in its operations. In his most recent observations on X, Bill Morgan highlighted that Ripple might face legal challenges due to the existing legal battle with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Although this commentator doesn't provide comprehensive information and tends to exaggerate, his point about the company's institutional sales practices is worth discussing in the example of Ripple's project and its impact on prices and other factors. 2 days ago, the SEC filed the remedies-related chart. Today was the date to present the public disclosure officially. Thus, from the history interview, we understand that the SEC side has asked for, in addition to everything else, a $7 billion amount in the aftermath of the damages and fine charge. After this statement, Bill Morgan outlined on Twitter his concerns about the SEC's allegations about Ripple's institutional sales. Morgan also highlighted the SEC's claim that Ripple effectively harmed other institutional investors by providing heavy discounts. Don't miss out on valuable insights and actionable tips that can potentially shape your financial future. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and join our vibrant community of crypto enthusiasts. Together, let's unravel the mysteries of cryptocurrencies and uncover the untapped potential that lies within.